Preparing to live stream the meeting. And setting up. And okay. Good evening and welcome to lesson number 2. Lesson number 2 of Meditation from Sinai. Tonight we have an incredible discussion, and it's one that I live with, one that I love, and it really gets down to the essence of Chabad philosophy. So we're going to start off with a big issue, a big problem, and it looks like Rhonda just disappeared. We're going to start with a big problem that we have, and we're going to figure out how we're going to fix it. But before we get into that, I want to first thank everyone who made this course possible. The members of the Chai Club, the members of the Scholarship Fund for making this class available to all of us. And we are going to start with our regular round of gratitude. Joan, you're up first. What are you grateful for today?
Well, I'm grateful that I've been looking for a reclining chair, and it's been fun. I've been meeting a lot of very nice people, and I'm blessed that I can even look for it. You know, so I just feel blessed. And a friend
Beautiful.
of mine had good news at the doctor today, so that's wonderful.
Very nice.
Yeah. So
very nice. Thank you, Joan. And good luck with finding your recliner.
And does anybody want a 2-seat recliner that is manual? Because I'm looking for an automatic one. But I have a leather 2-seat recliner that I want to give away if somebody wants it.
Okay. If you know anyone who wants it, then reach out to Joan. Leib Moshe. What are you grateful for today?
Well, I guess I'm grateful for what God gives us each day, and that we say the Amida for being able to have life and to live. And I'm also grateful for the life that I have. You know, for the creature comforts that I have, and for the love that I have in my life. You know, I'm just grateful to be alive and to be experiencing this.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Rhonda.
I am grateful for Hashem's giving me the ability to stay calm. When technology goes awry, I also do my yoga on Zoom, and technology's been behaving a little strange lately. And so just staying calm and working with what's there and not allowing it to, get me too upset. So just grateful for the calm and the peace within, and just to breathe and keep trying, and just to know that all is well.
Awesome. Beautiful. And Auntie Nina, what are you grateful for this wonderful tomorrow morning?
Yes. Well, I actually want to go back with what Rhonda just said, because that also I had a lot of trouble getting in. Never mind about that now, because we're in. And I thought, oh, when are we ever going to start? And I said, just wait on. There are people trying to get on, and everything will be fine. And you're here, and I'm here. So I was calm, and that is something kind of nice and new. But I want to tell you something that I'm really grateful for as well, and that I happen to be in the right place at the right time, just for a little. This is like practice, not very might, but we have a little cottage in front of the mikveh, which we call the mikveh cottage, and sometimes we're there to.
Auntie Nina, are you able to put the microphone a little closer?
Oh, I haven't got my speaker with me, because that was. Especially, wait a minute.
There we go. We hear you now.
How about this? Okay, I'm holding the
I
phone.
didn't see you. That was blocked. That was blocking you. So since you moved that, we could also see your beautiful face.
Anyway, I happened to be in the front room of the little cottage, and I was just you were just mentioning the Amida. I was just about to say the Shemona Esrei, and then I heard two women. This little cottage is in the Battery Point, which is a very touristy area at the moment. It used to be a dump, but now it is the highest, most desired place to live. But anyway, so I heard a couple of tourists just very narrow street just outside stopping, and most of the time people ignore this little cottage, but this one stopped, and I heard her say something to her companion, and I looked out, and I saw her face look like a kind of a familiar kind of face. Anyway, I went out and I said, "Hello, ladies," and she said, she pointed to the mezuzah and she said, "Oh, some Jewish people used to live here at one stage." And I said, "Yes." And so it was nice. And so we exchanged phone numbers, and she's going to see the shul also on Sunday morning with David, with my husband. He'll show the shul to her. And it felt so good to be there for her and make her feel like she's home wherever she is. She'll find.
Wow.
That's
Wow. That is incredible. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you,
It was
Auntie Nina.
lovely. I'll go and find it. I've got them,
Okay.
but-
Are Debbie and Annette able to join us? Are they still having difficulty?
Ed said she will be joining. Debbie is driving. I'm sure if it was an easy way that she could hit the link and it would open up, I guess she would join from the car. But I don't know if, with what you sent her, if she has to put in a password or whatever, she may have issues. If there was a way that she hit it. And
So
it's
let's
open-
do this. Let's do this. Are you able to, from on your computer, are you able to copy this from the chat and send it to her email on her phone?
I could try that. So let me see. So I'm in the chat and let's
So
see.
then
So
you'll select it.
I'm going to hit select. So I'm just going to kind of click on it.
So you'll, and you won't click on it. What you'll do is you'll put your cursor right either before or after and then select it.
Okay, it says select all.
Okay.
So
And then
I'll
you'll
hit
copy
select
it.
all. Okay, then I'll copy it. Oops. So I'm gonna go back again and hit select all. And then let's see what I have to hit to copy it. Let's just see if I right click or left click. So I'm gonna click again, then it goes away. I'm gonna
So
click
you'll
that
right,
again.
if you right click, then it should give you the option to copy.
I'm right clicking again. It highlighted it. Okay, now I right clicked again and I hit copy. So now it copied. So I'm in my computer now.
Okay, so now you're gonna go on your computer to, does Debbie have email on her phone?
She does.
So send it to the email, go into your email and send an email to the email address, which is associated with her phone.
So would I go to right now? Because I'm on.
Your regular email, yeah. You go to your
Oh.
regular email,
So if I just kind of now maybe minimize this
correct?
and go to my email, let me open up my email here. And now I'm going to go to, I guess, new. Let's
Yeah.
see what I do. New. Let me see. Forward reply, compose. I'm going to go to compose.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to go to Debbie. So I'm going to go to Debbie and I'll go to Annette, A-L-N-E-T. So I went to both and then I'm just going to put.
And then you'll just paste that in and then that should be a one-click link that'll work for them.
Zoom link to meeting. Okay, and now I'm going to paste it. I'm going here. I'm going to like click it and see if it gives me the opportunity to paste it. Oops, why is it not? Okay, there's the right click, paste. Okay, it's pasted in. And now,
And now you click send.
okay, beautiful. So that's good. Now let's see if I can get back to you guys. I had minimized it, so let me
We
go
still
back.
see you, so.
Oh, okay, now I think I can open it. Oops, that's not open, it's opening to an ad. So how do I get this opened? I see you small, oopsie daisy. Oh, I don't know why that's not opening. There's that, that's not working. I'm clicking Zoom, that's not working. Do you still see me? Oh, there you go.
We
You're
still
up
see
there.
you.
Okay, so I'm trying to now get you larger. Let's see if I can make you larger. You're in the
Okay,
right-hand corner. Small. I'm gonna see if I can open this. Oh, there you go. I got it back. There's a little
okay,
arrow.
perfect.
Okay, thank you. And I'm gonna.
Okay, good. Let's hope that works, and you'll keep us posted if there's any more issues, or we'll see them pop up on the screen.
Thank
So
you, absolutely. Okay.
you're welcome. Okay, so there's these. Where was this? Right here. There's this group of experts, and they were asked for their opinion on the question. The question that was posed is, what was the most incredible discovery of all time? The engineer chose fire, which gives humanity power over matter. The physicist chose the wheel, which gives humanity power over space. The mathematician chose the alphabet, which gives humanity the power over symbols. And the mystic chose the thermos bottle. And everybody asked, why the thermos bottle? He says, because the thermos bottle keeps hot liquids hot in the winter and cold liquids cold in the summer. Right?
How
It's in
does
the
it
winter
know?
and you want a hot coffee, you put it in your thermos and it keeps it hot. You're in the summer, you want an ice cold drink. It's hot outside, you put it in your thermos and it keeps it cold. So what? Everybody asks. He says, well, think about it. That little bottle, how does it know? Okay. Let's go with one more. There's a Zen master, and he's on vacation in New York City, and he's walking down the street, and he feels hunger. So he walks over to a hot dog vendor, and he says, "Make me one with everything." But it doesn't stop there. The man fixes him a hot dog, and hands it to him, and he takes out a $20 bill and gives it to the hot dog vendor. And the hot dog vendor takes it and pockets it. And the Zen master asks, well, what's with my change? And the man says, change must come from within. Okay. So last week, we spoke about the history of Jewish meditation, starting with Abraham, going through modern day times, all the way to today with daily practice involving our daily prayers. And we spoke about a practical manifestation, right? So we set the tone for the course, and we used a great application about shooing away all our negative emotions. A way to hack the system whenever we're feeling down, to think about happy things, think about positive things, and to understand that the way we think will change the way we feel. And we spoke about that in great length. Another thing that I didn't mention then was about how we start our day. If I start my day with a piece of cake and watching the news, what am I going to be seeing, and what am I going to be involving myself in? Is, what do they say? If it bleeds, it leads. I'm going to be looking at all the tsars from the whole world, and not only all the tsars, but the greatest of the tsars. And I'm going to start my day looking at all of these nasty things, anxiety provoking. And we spoke about this, I think, in Journey of the Soul, that the more they can make you feel like you are in danger, the more you're going to look at it and the more you're going to listen to it, because that's the way our brain works. So it's designed to make us feel like we are in danger. And then one can only imagine that anxiety may follow us throughout the day unless we do something different. So if we start our day differently, if we start our day with a calm and peaceful meditation, thinking about happy things and positive things, what that can lead us through our day. But tonight we're going to take things to a whole new level. Tonight we're going to look at the other two methods that we mentioned last week, and it's going to be amazing, guys, what we are going to look through today. So we are not going to be focusing on a physical manifestation of meditation. Tonight, our focus is spirituality. We're going to take ourselves deeper, and we're going to allow ourselves to experience things that otherwise we may not have experienced. Without this kind of meditation, we may stay as external and not deep, looking at only the veneer. Today, what we're going to explore is not to help us in a emotional kind of way, but rather to open us up to a spiritual world that is way greater than what the eye can see. So we are going to discuss two systems, two ways of doing this. One of them is the preferred Chabad way, which is pretty much the ultimate of Chabad philosophy, what Chabad was invented for. It's going to be a breathtaking journey. Come join us. Was that link any better for Debbie?
She has not responded. I think.
Okay, she'll get to a red light or she'll pull over and we'll see her. So
Yes.
there's a story about a man named Isaac who lived in Krakow, a very, very poor man. And somehow God always made things work. He was very calm. He was very happy. He believed in God. But it was hard. It was very hard for him financially. One night he has a dream. He has a dream that he's in the big city in Prague. And under the bridge that crosses the river, he sees a treasure. Well, he wakes up in the morning and he thinks, wow, look how bad things are for me that I'm dreaming about finding treasures to get myself out of my predicament. Well, the next night he has the same dream. And the next night he has the same dream. And after a few nights of having this dream, he says to his wife, okay, Mrs. Isaac, I have to go to Prague. Why? I'll tell you when I get back. He goes to Prague and he finds the bridge of his dream and he starts digging. Well, Prague back in the day had some police officers. I'm guessing they still do now. And some officer came over to him and said, excuse me, sir, what are you digging for under the bridge? He says, well, you see, I had this dream that under the bridge, there's a treasure. And the man laughed at him and he says, oh, dreams. Ha, you know, last night I had a dream. I had a dream that in the city of Krakow, there's a poor man called Isaac. And he has a tumble down shack. And underneath the hearth, underneath his boiler, there is a hidden treasure. Did I start going and running to Krakow to find Isaac's house and start breaking down his house for a treasure? It's just a silly dream. Forget about it. And before he even finished his sentence, he sees Isaac, who recognized his house from the description, picking up his shovel and running back home. Well, Isaac comes home and he puts down his shovel and he picks up his axe and he starts breaking down the boiler. And his wife, thinking that he's gone deranged, what are you doing? First you're running off to Prague, now you're coming here, breaking the boiler. What are the kids going to do when it's going to be the winter time? We have no way to heat up the house. And he says, just wait. And he keeps digging. And underneath the boiler, he finds a treasure. Now, this is a story that many of us have heard, and many of us have heard it as a legend. Apparently, there is a shul today in Krakow called Isaac's Shul. And the story of how Isaac's Shul was built, how a pauper was able to build a shul, is written as we just described it. And he took that money, he built a shul, and he was able to live happily ever after. So what's the point of the story? The point of the story is that sometimes what we're looking for, far and wide, traveling across the world, is really inside our house. How many people do you know that have traveled across the seas, up the mountains, past the clouds to find spirituality? Exploring all kinds of places and things, looking for spirituality and looking to connect with the ethereal, if I pronounce that correctly. And tonight we're going to discuss a little bit about the spirituality that we can find in Judaism. Like we spoke last week about the two Israeli backpackers who found that the deepest mysticism is found in Jewish sources. We don't have to travel. We just have to start digging. Let's look at text number 1. We're going to discuss our soul. Again, we're going to start with text number 1. I'm going to share it on the screen. If I can share screen over here, at least something should work today. Where are we? Okay. It's not loading. There we go. Now it's loading. Okay. Perfect. No. It's not loading. Let me open with system viewer. Let's see if that will work. Everything today is a challenge, huh? Okay. While we're waiting for that to load, text number 1. Leib Moshe, would you like to read for us text number 1?
Sure. The patriarchs chose to be shepherds so that they could be alone in the wilderness.
Lesson 2. So that's going to be student page 40. And what we're going to be discussing is the soul of ourselves. We're going to take a little bit of a dive into what is our soul. So the first thing that we're going to learn about it is in text 1, page number 40.
You want me to read that?
Please.
God formed the human from the dust of the ground, and he breathed into the human's nostrils the soul of life.
Beautiful. Thank you. So what is the soul? The first thing that we know right in the beginning of the Torah, what is the soul? The soul is a battery pack, right? The soul is a battery pack. The soul is what gives us life. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Lesson 2. Oh, Annette has joined. Admit. Okay. Lesson 2, I have over here. Okay. There we go. In just a moment, I'm going to ask Rhonda to share with us text number 2. Welcome, Annette. It's good to see you.
Well, I see text number 2 somewhere on my screen if you.
You will. Yeah, you will see it in just a moment.
Okay.
So that's the first thing that we know about our soul. Our soul is a battery pack. Our soul gives us life. Our soul makes us alive. God breathed into his nostrils a soul of life, and then he turned from a mound of dirt into a human being. He became alive. But there's really a lot more. Let's look at text number 2. And this is something that we read in our morning prayers. And Rhonda, do you see text number 2 in the middle of the page?
I see, no, I see your name, and the Chabad Greater Fort Lauderdale has started screen sharing. But I do not see any text. I see, just everybody's pictures got
Come
small.
through.
I don't see the text yet. Should I click on anything, chat or anything, or no?
It's loading. It's loading.
Oh, it
It's
just
loading.
There you go. Okay,
Okay.
beautiful. Where it says, may God or my God,
My God.
it says, my God, the soul that you placed within me is pure. You created it, you formed it, you breathed it into me.
So let's take this apart a little bit. I'm going to stop sharing and let's think a little bit about what we're saying over here. There's a lot, and we could probably spend a full hour and a half just on this little prayer. The first thing that we're saying is that one might think that once God breathed the soul into Adam and Adam became a living being, that just followed on to his descendants until it came to me. And I am just a byproduct of Adam's life. And what are we saying here? We're saying here, no, that is not correct. It doesn't come to me automatically. It's my soul that you have entered into me. God is giving me my soul anew. So I have my own soul. And without that soul that God is giving me, I would be a mound of dirt, just like Adam before he got his soul. And it's new every single day for me. Also, it's spiritual while it's inside me. It's a soul that God has given me, and it remains spiritual. It remains pure. It is formed and created by God, and it's inside me.
Rabbi, did you just say God breathes it into me each day?
That's a little bit of a longer discussion about how exactly that works, but to a certain degree, yes.
Okay, because that morning prayer says something about renews
Yeah,
spirit.
our soul is renewed each morning.
Yeah.
Yes. So now let's look at text number 3. I'm going to see if I share my screen. And Joan, would you please read for us text number 3, page number 41?
The
A
human
little bit
soul,
more about the soul, and this is even more spiritual and more Kabbalistic. This one is from King Solomon.
the human soul is the candle of God.
Okay, now we've got a lot to talk about. The human soul is the candle of God. Okay, tell me, what do you think about when you think about the human soul being a candle of God? How do you explain that analogy?
Well, the thing about a candle is the flame on top, and the soul is like a flame. It can be fed with positive things that make the flame burn brighter, or it can be fed with negative things which diminish the flame.
Okay, depending on what you feed it is going to depend how bright it is. Very good.
It gives warmth and light.
It gives light and warmth. Very good.
It goes
What
up.
else?
The heat and light go upward.
It's always going upwards. Yes.
It could light other candles.
Perfect. It could light other candles. And what happens when you light another candle? I'm going to add.
Gets
How many
brighter.
candles do you have? 2.
Two.
You can inspire someone else and you don't lose anything of your own. Anything else?
Well,
Okay,
it
so
could
we got some. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, I mean, as you think about it, there's more positives, but it could also burn, like you have to respect the candle, right? You have to respect the light, the fire. Because I think if you use it the wrong way, you could set something afire or you could also burn.
Okay. Yes,
And
we have to be.
Or put it out.
And eventually it extinguishes.
And eventually it extinguishes. So that's the point that we're really going to harp on. But yes, we have to be careful not to put out someone else's flame or douse it with with negativity. And we have to be also careful not to get burned. These are all really, really great, really great. And we could also spend a full course on this analogy. But what I want to focus on really is that last point, which is that what does a fire want? What is the be all and end all of a fire? The nature of a fire, if we're going to give it one characteristic that that we're going to define it by tonight, is that a fire does not want to be here. Think about it. How do you get a fire? How do you create a fire? You have to literally smash it into existence. You take 2 rocks and bang them into each other to force it into existence. You take a magnifying glass and you well, the truth is that taking a magnifying glass, you're really just transferring one fire to another to create another. But let's say you take your twigs and you're rubbing and rubbing and rubbing and rubbing until finally the fire says, okay, I'll come. You take a match and you strike it. And then what does the fire do? The fire gets rid of everything around it so that it then can self-destruct and go back where it came from. Fire doesn't want to be here. Fire will destroy anything that's here to allow it to extinguish. And that's what fire is. Fire does not want to be here. It doesn't want to come, and it really wants to go. That's very different than who we are, right? That's very different than water. Water is very comfortable where it is. Water actually just wants to keep going down and float to the lowest point. We all get very territorial. You know, we stake our flags and we mark off our territory and we say, you don't come close. And if you're going to press my boundaries, oh boy, are you going to hear it from me. You called me that. You came into my space. You're going to come and talk to me like this. We get very much comfortable with our space and we want to stay in our space and we will do everything we can to keep our space. But our soul wouldn't hear of that. Our soul doesn't want to be here to begin with. God has to force the soul. What does the Mishnah say? Against your will you are born, and against your will you die. The soul does not want to be here. The soul would rather be where it came from. And the soul is always trying to get to where it came from. Flickering upwards.
A quick question. So wouldn't, since it doesn't want to be here and it's forced to be born, would it not be more interested in dying so that it could move upward or move on?
That is an incredible question. And for the purpose of what we are going to talk about today, the essence of the soul that we're going to be talking about, that we're going to be discussing today, the answer is yes. However, we spent a long time speaking about the benefit that the soul derives from being in the body. We spent probably 2 or 3 lessons on that in the past. But today we're talking about the part of the soul that, the soul part of the soul that really does not want to be here. Does absolutely not want to be here. It's forced to be here and it has to stay here. So you are correct. And when we talk about when God gave the Torah on Mount Sinai, I don't want to get too far off. We still need to finish. But when God gave the Torah on Mount Sinai, it says that all the Jewish people died. What happened? They were so removed from their physical that their soul was able to do what it wanted. And their souls left their bodies and God revived them. But that's not what we're looking to do, because God gave us mitzvahs, and mitzvahs can only be done here. There's a kid's book. Remind me to tell you about it later. If I went to the moon, my trip to the moon. So that's where we have this dichotomy, right? We have the soul that does not want to be here, and we have the body that very much wants to be here. There's a kid's book called Labels for Label, where there's these 2 brothers, Yossi and Label, and they're getting very territorial. And they decide, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put labels on everything. So they got, stickers, different color stickers, and they started labeling everything. This is my bed. This is my sheet. This is my ball. This is my helmet. This one is Yossi's baseball, and the bat is Label's bat. And, marking everything. And after they go through their entire room, there is not one item left in the room. Took them a full afternoon. I'm sure their parents were happy that they were occupied. But after a full afternoon, they've got everything labeled, and now there should be peace, right? No more quarrels, no more fights, because I know what's mine and you know what's yours. And then they come downstairs and they see all of a sudden the kitchen table has a sticker that says Dad on it, and the food has a sticker that says Mom's on it. And they're like, well, where are we going to sit? And their parents say, okay, well, go get furniture. And they realize that as nice as it is to be very territorial, it doesn't really work in the long run. We kind of do have to exist together. But the fire is constantly asking for permission to leave. And this is going to lead us over here into text number 4. This is from the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shner Zalman of Liadi. And we are going to share our screen. Auntie Nina, would you like to read for us text number 4, please?
The nature of the, excuse me, the nature of a flame is to flicker upward, indicating that the flame intrinsically seeks to part from its wick in order to unite with its source above. Similarly, the human soul naturally desires and yearns to separate itself and escape its body in order to unite with its origin and source in God, the blessed source of life or life.
Thank you, Auntie Nina. What a beautiful, beautiful paragraph. And let's think about that. The human soul. It sounds very third person the way it's written, right? You. Inside of you is a soul that does not want to be here. Inside of you is a soul that sees things only from a godly perspective. Inside of you is a soul that cares not about what your friends and neighbors are saying about you. Inside of you is a soul that sees only connections, positivity, love, and the opportunity to bring God into the world. Inside of you. Imagine that perspective, where everything is good, where there is no ego whatsoever, does not want to be here. If there's someone else who says, let me take your space, the soul will say, thank you. I've been looking for an escape. let's just think about what life would look like. What life would look like from a perspective of such a soul that is not interested in being here, that does not take up any space, that is only here to help others and to look out for everyone's best. And yet, here we are. How does that work? We have this wonderful soul within us, which is sublime and objective and altruistic. And here we are getting to all our messes every day in the grind of life. Fights with our siblings, fights with our coworkers, or on a better day, just feeling not the greatest. Even better day, we're enjoying our pizza, our sushi. Where does that come from? And how does that happen if our soul is so spiritual? So here comes the kicker. The soul is not the only game in town. We have a body as well. And we have a war. We have a war between the soul and the body. The soul is encrusted. The soul is encrusted in a body, which wants exactly the opposite of what the soul wants. And that's how we ended up here.
We ended up here. But
That's how we ended up. Go on.
But we ended up here because God wanted us to be here.
Correct. But we ended up in our ruts that we end up in because of that conflict between our body and our soul. We don't see things from our soul perspective. We have a body to take into account as well, with all of its bodily desires, wants, emotions, feelings, and perspectives. And though we have a soul, we're often not aware of it. We're not thinking about it. And in the heat of the moment, when someone says something offensive to us, or in the heat of the moment when we see a chocolate bar in front of us, our soul doesn't really come into play. Our body is much more exercised at this game. This game of getting what it wants. So, what have we learned? What we've learned and explored is that we have a treasure inside ourselves. Forget Isaac, and forget Isaac's treasure. You have a burning soul inside you. The problem is that sometimes it's hard to see because we have a body that's covering it. It's like a battle of the consciousness. And we have these two realities that are fighting with each other. And who's going to win? It's like a battle of the wits. You know, there's this guy, he gets out of his elevator. He comes into the lobby of the law firm. And from the lobby, he hears screaming coming from the conference room. Screaming, like very heated. And he turns to the secretary. He says, "What's going on in there?" She says, "It's a battle of the wits." He says, "What does that mean?" He says, "Rabinowitz, Horowitz." Anyways, okay, so let's summarize where we've gone until now. We started off with a technical difficulty. Then we discussed that you don't have to go anywhere to find spirituality. It's right inside you. You don't have to go anywhere. You have to go only inside. The problem is that we don't always see it and we don't always feel it. So that's what we started tonight. We started tonight by saying that we have a big problem. And tonight we're going to look at 2 ways to fix it. This is the problem. The problem is that we have this treasure within us, this spirituality, this godliness. All the spirituality you ever needed, the God that you ever wanted to join, is in your heart. And the question only is, why don't we feel it? If we have such a powerhouse inside of us, why do we feel like it's so distant? And more importantly than why do we feel it's so distant, how do we get closer to it? And this is where Jewish meditation comes in. I'm gonna pause for a moment, check in if everybody's holding up to us where we are.
Mhm. Yes.
Any questions thus far? Good.
One quick question. I just wanted to kind of elaborate on and just kind of reiterate. So the soul, from what you just said, is physically located within our heart.
That's a great question. It's a great question. The way that I was using a metaphor, the way that it's usually explained is that the main area of your soul is in your brain, but there is also part of your soul in your, well, let's put it this way. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe writes that your left ventricle, which is the one that pumps the blood to your body, if I'm getting it right, I'm pretty sure the left ventricle, that is the home of your animalistic soul, your bodily soul, and your body conscious. And the right ventricle is where your head, and by extension, the right ventricle is where your soul lives. How that exactly works, we're gonna have to look at a spiritual physics and biology. But yeah, we often refer to our soul being in our heart. That's why I used that expression.
So if you get a valve put in, does that mean you're having part of your soul removed?
You know, it's a good question. It's a very good question. I know some people who have had a pig transplant, but we won't go down that road now because it's a long and interesting question.
And
the answer
heart
is yes.
transplant as well.
Sorry?
And heart transplant. But the soul is not physical, so it's really just
We're talking only
trying-
as you said, yeah. But this is a little bit
Okay.
gonna take us off topic if we discuss it too much more. But yeah, that was I was using it as the colloquial expression. Thank you. So we have two paths to access our inner treasure. And how do we get in touch is obviously, this is why you came to the course, is meditation. That's what we're going to be talking about. And the two types of meditation that we're going to be talking about is number one, hitbodedut with the D's, which is spirituality by subtraction. We're going to discuss this, what I mean by that. And then we have hitbonenut with the N's, which is spirituality by intention. And we're going to get into what I mean by that. The first way is we are going to remove the covering to find the soul. Right? We have our body, which is covering over our soul. We're going to remove the covering to get to the treasure. We're going to dig with our shovels, and we're going to unearth that treasure. We're going to remove all of our distractions, and we're going to get into it a little more, or a lot more, to get to our treasure. The second way is to focus on the soul. To focus on the soul so intensely and so intently that the body cannot get in the way even if it tries. Like, let's say that this treasure was, made out of metal, and you brought a really strong magnet and put it on top of the earth. That treasure is going to come to the top. So those are the two ways. We're getting rid of the dirt, or are we shining the treasure so bright that the dirt can't get in the way? So we're going to get a deep dive now. We are halfway through, and timing, we are doing pretty good for starting 10 minutes late. We are doing very well. Okay. So now we're going to get a deep dive into these two paths. There was once a young boy who had a lot of questions, deep philosophical questions. And he wanted to come and ask these questions, pose them before the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he's in Crown Heights, he's in Brooklyn, and he's walking down the street, and he sees the Lubavitcher Rebbe walking in the street. And he runs over to him. And the only question that is able to blurt out, he asks, "Where is God?" And the Rebbe pointed to this boy's heart, and he said, "There is God." And I didn't see the story, it didn't happen to me, but you can see the video of this man telling his story. He said that changed his entire life. He started looking inside, and he found God. So let's look at number one, hitbodedut. Hitbodedut is clearing the noise, eliminating distractions, like the Hebrew word badad, which means alone. seclusion, getting rid of all distractions, external and internal, and breaking down that crust until all that's left is the soul. Let's start with text number 5. Annette, would you like to read text number 5 for us?
I don't see it.
It should be on page 43.
Oh, I thought it was going to be on the screen.
Oh, yeah, it's on the screen now.
Okay.
Oops, that's still text number 4. Where is text number 5? Here's text number 5. Okay, this is coming from the son of the Rambam, the son of Maimonides. And here's what he writes about Hitbodedut.
What's his name?
His name is Rabbi Avraham, the son of Maimonides.
Okay, it says Hitbodedut is one of the more superior of all the distinguished practices. It is a practice of the greatest saints and the medium through which the prophets experienced revelation.
Okay, so this is pretty big. This is pretty big. Hitbodedut. How did the prophets experience their revelation? How did the saints stay saintly? Hitbodedut. Getting rid of the crust, getting rid of all of the distractions. Let's look at the Shalah. Text number 6. Leib Moshe, would you like to read for us text number 6?
Sure. It is recorded in many of the works of the medieval rabbis that seclusion, hitbodedut, separation from everything mundane, parachute, and devotional clinging, devekut, were practiced by the pious Jews. This is to say that when they were alone, they would empty their minds of all worldly concerns and connect their minds with the master of all, which is interpreted as existence. The famed Kabbalist, the Arizal, taught that the practice is far more beneficial for the soul than study, and that every person should practice the seclusion meditation according to their ability, either once a week, once a fortnight, or at the very least once a month.
Okay. So here we have, again, high praises for Hitbodedut. To give an example, I have a friend who was once in St. Bart's, little island. He was helping Mr. Ronnie Perlman with a minyan on Shabbos. So they got there Thursday, and Thursday night they were driving around in their Jeeps, and they come to the top of a mountain on this beautiful island, and it's dark outside. They turn off their cars, and they lay down in the grass, and they look up at the sky. He says, I'm from New York. In New York, you look up at the sky, the most you're going to see is a yellowish reflection against the clouds from all the city lights. Over here in St. Bart's, there's no fog, there's no emissions, there's no interference, there's nothing. Just clear skies. And he looked up and he saw a blanket of shimmering stars. So clear, so close. Felt like he could reach out and touch them. Removing all of the dirt, removing all of the dust, and accessing the soul. Should we do this? Let's do this. We're gonna skip around a little bit over here, and we're gonna go to 2 modern forms of Hitbodedut, and we're gonna go past the end of the text. We're gonna look at the appendix, and I hope I have this in my PDF as well.
63.
Page 63 is what I'm looking for.
And 60.
How did you know? Text number 16 on page 63. Do I have that here? Do we have that here?
53.
And
So
what's
we're gonna actually go to page 63. Text number 16. Rhonda, I apologize. I do not have that on my PDF. You can look at this. This is in the appendix. So
Where is that?
If you look at page 53,
yeah.
it has the Hitbonenut meditation exercise.
So that's Hitvonenut. What we're going to look at is we're going to continue with Hitvonenut, and we're going to go past the end of the lesson into the appendix, and we're going to read text number 16. That would be on page 63. 63. We're going to read two texts over here. I'm going to try to go through them fairly quickly. Two modern day applications. It's the same thing of getting rid of all of your stuff. The first one is going to a quiet place and just talking out everything that's on your heart to God until all you're left with is you and God. And the second one is gently calming down your thoughts and softly bringing in a mantra to bring out your soul. So text number 16 is from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Hitbodedut, seclusion, is the highest asset, greater than everything. It requires setting aside at least an hour for secluding yourself in a room or a field and finding ways to enter into dialogue with your Creator. Use words that evoke favor, placate, and conciliate in order to entreat and plead with God that He bring you closer to Him, to genuine divine worship. Conduct this prayer and conversation in the language you normally use, your native tongue, because it is difficult to express all that you desire to say in the holy tongue if it is not your native language. In your native tongue, you can express yourself fully. Share with God everything that is in your heart. Express your remorse and repentance for the past. You're pleased to genuinely merit drawing closer to God from this day forward, and similar conversations, each individual according to their spiritual standing. This practice is extraordinarily beneficial. It is an extremely good path and guideline for drawing closer to God because it is a universal guide that encompasses everything. You should know that many renowned tzaddikim related that they attained their high degree of spirituality only through this practice. A perceptive individual will readily appreciate the great benefit of this practice, which raises a person higher and higher. Furthermore, it is a practice that is accessible to all people. Anyone can make use of this practice and thereby climb to spiritual heights. Fortunate are those who seize the opportunities this practice provides. So his way is go out into a field, go out into a place and speak with your words till you get everything off of your chest and are left with just you and God. We're going to skip 17 and we're going to go to text number 18. This is from Rabbi Kleinimus Kalman Shapira of, I'm not going to pronounce this right, Piacenza, somewhere near Warsaw. And he was an incredible man. We can speak a lot about him and his life. And he writes another way. He says, the Talmud states that a dream is a 60th of prophecy. The explanation of this is that our self-awareness prevents us from experiencing the divine. As long as we are awake and conscious of ourselves, the spiritual presence of the divine cannot rest on us. Conversely, when we are asleep, our awareness and consciousness are quieted. Our sense of self is no longer present, and the divine spirit can rest on us. For that reason, our dreams contain a fraction of prophecy, because while we sleep, our sense of self is not present to disturb the divinity. Our goal, however, is to attain this sleep consciousness while awake. This is achieved through silencing our thoughts and desires that control us incessantly. Here is practical direction to achieve this. Okay, so our goal is to remove the crust, to slow down and stop our thoughts and focus on God, to achieve and experience spirituality. First, we simply pay attention to our flow of thoughts for a set time. We will eventually notice that our mind is emptying and our thoughts are slowing from their habitual hurried flow. Just focusing on your thoughts will slow them down. We should then repeat a single verse or phrase, such as, God is truly God, in order to insert a thought of holiness into our now open mind. After these steps, we can articulate a need for help in any of the many areas of character development with which we require assistance to improve, be it our faith or our love or awe for God. Here's a suggestion for working on strengthening faith. I believe with complete faith that God is the only existence in the universe. There is no reality other than God. All the world and all that exists is but a ray of his light. This should be repeated several times, but not forcefully. The whole point is to quiet the self. Speaking with forcefulness is likely to arouse the ego. Rather, we utter the phrase with extreme gentleness. Or if you wish to arouse love for God, say, I wish so much to be close to his blessed essence. My deepest desire is to feel that I am forever growing nearer to the mighty Creator. So, to summarize this first way, is that we have a treasure inside. If we clear everything away, we can access it. Let's look over here at text number 7. This is from Rabbi Gon. And I am going to share my screen over here. And just to demonstrate, this is really a very effective practice. Text number 7, where is this? Text number 9, text number
45.
8, text number 7. Here. You may be aware that in the view of many of our great sages, there is a technique for individuals of extremely advanced character to experience the mystical visions of the divine chariot, the angels in heaven surrounding God's throne as revealed to Ezekiel and others, and to gaze into the spiritual chambers of angels and the like. They would fast for a designated amount of days, then place their head between their knees and whisper copious songs of praise to God with their faces toward the earth. This opened them to mystical visions and allowed them to experience roaming the heavens and exploring its supernal chambers with clarity. There are 2 works of the Mishnaic sages regarding this, entitled Hechalot Rabati, the great chambers, and Hechalot Zutrati, the minor chambers. These are all very well known and was regarded by all of the sages as authentic. They insisted that God performs miracles and wonders through saintly individuals, just as he did with the prophets, and that God shows them awesome visions, just as he showed the prophets. So this is pretty intense and very real. When we take away everything, when we remove all of the coverings that cover our soul, what we uncover is genuine spirituality. And we access a part of God, the part of God that lies within us, often unseen because of our coarseness or crassness or involvement with the world. But when we remove all of that and we take off the shell, what we find is a connection with the divine. Now, what's the issue with that? The issue with that is that we have to clear away things and we have to empty our mind. And we're dealing a lot of the focus is on removing the dirt, taking away anything from our mind, allowing ourselves to be void of any thoughts. And that can be very hard. Let's look at Hitbonenut, the second way, which is the preferred method of Chabad. And we're going to see soon a brilliant text, a very interesting text. Hitbonenut is intentional focus, going straight for the treasure. Cognitive spiritual meditation, right? That's how we're focusing, we're looking, and we're thinking. We're not clearing the mind, but we're filling it with such brightness and focus, with such intensity. And we're going to be thinking about a spiritual idea until it becomes real to us. That's Hitbonenut. Learning an idea, thinking about it, rolling it over in our minds. So until now, what we spoke about was removing the physical. What we're going to speak about now is developing our godly awareness. Instead of focusing on getting rid of our body, we're going to focus on making our soul shine even brighter. And this is the aim of Chabad. This is why Chabad was created. This is why Chabad created was in order for us to learn how to do hitbonenut, to practice it, and to make our soul shine bright. Let's look at text number 9. Text number 9.
But Shmuley, if somebody
Yes.
has their TV on in the background, would it be possible to lower it or turn it down? Because we hear that as interference.
Yes, how about off?
Okay. We could just click mute all, and then anybody who would like to unmute is anyone who has a question, just unmute yourself and we'll hear you. Thank you. Rhonda, would you like to unmute yourself and read for us text number 9?
Okay, great. So it says a central foundation of this study of mysticism is to repeatedly spend considerable time in deep contemplation on the subject matter being studied. This is the practice that is referred to as hisbonenut, which means to firmly visualize the concept and to analyze it deeply.
Thank you, Rhonda. Joan, would you like to read for us text number 10? This is going to be an example of something straight from the Torah, actually, and a discussion about by Rabbeinu Bachya, and he's going to discuss this a little bit. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to have to unmute yourself first, Joan.
Oh,
There we
okay.
go. Okay, now we hear you.
Let's see. You shall take it to heart. This is a positive commandment to know God. We are enjoined to investigate and develop an appreciation of God's unity and not rely solely on received tradition. However, since the spiritual understanding of the divine is abstract and not easily understood, the verse emphasizes that we must take it to heart. The Hebrew term for take it in this verse more literally means return it, indicating that we must repeatedly contemplate the concept until it instills in our mind. The term take to heart always refers to a matter that requires profound concentration and extra focused thinking.
Thank you. We are going to actually continue. So what we have to do is learn it and then take it, flip it over and around until, like today, they have on a lot of the websites, when you're looking at products, you can take a full 360 view of it before you buy it. You want to know exactly what you're looking at. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a concept, a godly concept, and we're going to think about it from all aspects, from all sides, until we really get a full grasp on it. And then we're going to think about that and think about it more and more and more and more until we feel like we can almost touch it. Text number 11a. Auntie Nina, would you like to read? Oops, we're going to have to unmute.
Okay, I'm
Thank
unmuted.
Yeah,
All right.
we hear you now.
Okay, so his bonanut is an internal dialogue with an idea. Once we have studied something well in all its fine details, explanations, and commentaries, until we have developed a thorough understanding of it, the practice of bonanut meditation is to then mentally analyze the idea to verify whether our understanding is true and accurate in all of its details. Through diligent meditation, we develop a strong visualization of the soul of the concept, which is the animating core of the idea itself.
Thank you. And we're going to continue that with number 11b. And I'm going to read this over here. The Hasidic practice of Itbananut, meditation, involves actively contemplating a spiritual concept until it expands our creative intelligence, deepens our awareness, and becomes an indelible part of our consciousness. So here's what happens. We have really 3 stages. Number 1, we have to understand it. So we have to understand. We have to learn something and understand it. Then we have to churn it over into our mind, expanding our creative intellect and figuring out, we're going to do this soon. We're going to have an exercise. We're going to practice this. So you'll see what that means until it brings us to an emotion. Let's look at text number 12 from the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he writes like this: through honest contemplation with deep focus, a person's soul develops an authentic closeness and attachment with God, commensurate to their spiritual standing. Through this, one fulfills the mitzvah to love God. I'm going to pause here and go off script a little bit. And the practice that we're going to do is incredible, and we're going to get to that very soon. But before then, I just want to harp on this point for a minute. You know, what does it mean to know God? What does it mean to love God? And what does it mean that thinking about something can lead me to really connect with that idea to the extent that it makes me feel? So the idea that we're going to discuss right now, which is going to be the off-script part, is how God is the life force of everything in the universe. And what does that mean? When we think about it, that God created every blade of grass. God created so many different kinds of creatures, mammals, reptiles, humans. There are close to 8 billion or over 8 billion people in the world, and each one looks different. The snowflakes. What does it take to keep a tree growing? What does it take for a blade of grass to grow? The sun, the water, the rain. What does it take for an animal to grow? The food, the space. And when I start thinking about a God who has billions and billions of items in this universe that he takes care of, the grass, the trees, the water, the fish, and he created them with all such intricate details. The way our systems work, the way the ecosystem works, the way our body functions, even just our hearing, the way those tiny little bones vibrate and our brain turns that into sound. And we can go on and on about how our eye works, how our nose works, how our mouth works, how emotions work, how we can sit and discuss with friends, sociology. And then we zoom out for a moment and we think about the God who created, who runs, and who attends to this entire universe has asked me to connect with him on a personal level. And when we think about that, and we realize, we spend time thinking about how great this God is, and we spend time thinking about what it means that he wants to connect with me. He wants me to keep kosher. He wants me to keep Shabbos. He wants me to pray to him in the morning and in the night. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible that such a great God cares about me and wants a connection and a relationship with me, wants to hear from me when I'm sad, wants to hear from me when I'm happy? When we think about these ideas until they become real to us, about how incredible the world is, and when we think about it until it becomes real to us, how much God cares about our success and how much he loves us and wants a connection with us, the next thing that's going to happen is that we're going to feel closer to him. We're going to feel a strong desire to get closer to this God that shows us so much love. So for the next few minutes, we're going to actually practice this. We're going to learn a concept and we're going to analyze it. We're going to discuss it. And you may even feel something now, or as you continue thinking about this throughout the week. So let's dive into it. We're going to read text number 13. We're going to do it once now, and you'll be able to read it over. You have your books. Rhonda, you'll be getting your book tomorrow, and you'll be able to read this over. Text number 13. This is from, again, Rabbi Shalom Ber Schneerson, and this is on the subject of Teshuvah. Everything that exists is comprised of a physical form and a spiritual divine energy that creates and animates the entity's physical existence. This is clearly demonstrable in animals and humans. They have an animating spirit. If the spirit were to leave their body, the body would no longer be classified as alive, and the body would begin to decompose and turn to dust. That is because the very existence of the body hinges upon the spiritual energy that animates it. The same is true of vegetation. It also possesses an animating spirit. Even inanimate objects possess some sort of energizing spirit that keeps them in existence and prevents their disappearance. Based on this awareness, spirituality is referred to as good and life, because it is a living force that remains alive and in existence forever. Whereas physical matter is referred to as negative and death, because it decomposes and ceases to exist without the spirit within it, and it has no means of existing independently. From my flesh, I can perceive God, says Job, meaning that the human experience informs our understanding of God. From the micro, we get a glimpse into the macro. We intuitively sense that we have a life force that provides us with life, and that it is our primary identity, and that were our soul to leave our body, the body would be left like an inanimate rock and eventually decompose and disappear. The same is true with all that exists. The entire cosmos and all its contents exist due to a divine spirit that gives existence to everything. That divine light and force is the entire life and sustaining power of all that exists. If it departs, all existence will revert to absolute nothingness. So if we meditate on this idea, we will realize that the material existence of each entity is entirely dependent on the spiritual force within it, and that physicality is nullified before the presence of the divine light that is its source of existence. This realization will inspire a powerful desire, love, and yearning for the divine. We will no longer desire that which exists only superficially, and which is in fact death, decomposing, and disappearing. And we will desire, all we will desire is to attach to the divinity that is true life and the mainstay of existence. So we have here three major ideas. Number one, everything is comprised of a body and soul. For example, if you go out for dinner, right? The body of it is you're walking into a restaurant and eating food. The soul of it is a connection and relationship with a friend. Let's say you're making a business deal and you're shaking hands. The body of it is two hands moving up and down. The soul of it is trust and commitment. Everything in this world has a body and a soul. The second big idea is that if there's no soul, then it's dead. It rots and decomposes. Let's say you go out for dinner with a friend, keeping with our examples. Let's say you go out for dinner with a friend, but you're each on your phone the whole time and you don't speak to each other. What have you gained? Nothing. Let's say you strike a deal and then one person reneges on the deal and doesn't make good on his promise. What do you have there? You don't have a business deal. You have two hands shaking up and down. You don't have anything. There's nothing real about it. And number three is that when we realize that the soul behind everything is what really makes it meaningful, what we will start desiring is the soul behind everything. And we will look past the veneer. And when we approach a business deal, we won't be looking to shake hands. We'll be looking for the trust and commitment. And when we look at a computer, we won't be looking at a technical hunk of plastic and metal. We'll be looking at a machine that can connect us with God. And so too with everything that we see. We will see the godly part of it, the good part of it, the ability to connect and the ability to make it a part of our life in a good way. Page number 14 is going to lead us through this. Sorry, not page number 14, text number 14. Let me share my screen because sharing is caring. That's what Mushka said. She came home today and she wanted Mendel's supper. And mommy said, you're going to eat what's on your plate. And she said, but Mora told me sharing is caring. So the verse tells us, this day I call upon heaven and earth as witnesses that I have warned you. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. You shall choose life so that you and your offspring will live. What does that mean? What does that mean? No human being in their right mind is going to choose death and evil. What does it mean, choose life? Why does he have to warn us and take the heaven and earth as witnesses that he warned us that we should choose life? What it means exactly is this. What it means is that we should be looking at the life behind everything, not the death that stares us in the face. Because what we're looking at is really death and decomposition that is waiting to turn into compost. What's behind it is life. What's behind it is God. What's behind it is a soul that makes it meaningful and a soul that makes it real. Once we turn this over and it starts to gel, it starts to congeal, and it starts to solidify, that just as a body without a soul, if we're not focusing on our soul, that's existence. That's not life. And that brings us full circle. Live life with your treasure, because that's what's real. Live life with your soul. And everything else is death.
What in the world?
I'm not sure. It sounds like there's some trucks moving past someone. I'm going to mute everyone again. And if you'd like to share anything or ask a question, please just unmute yourself and jump right in. So this is the concept that we're thinking about. The concept that we're thinking about is how everything in this world has a body and a soul. The body is going to die. The body is going to decompose. And the only reason the body is here is because the soul that is animating it. And let's start looking more at the soul and focusing more on the soul and connecting more with the soul. Rhonda, do you have a question?
No, I'm sorry, I don't. But I was
Oh,
just
okay.
thinking, a quick little share of like, today, it feels like an example.
Please.
Like I was at the gym and, anyway, I met two of my yoga students there and they were sitting on the bicycles. I was going to go do the little circuit, but they said we're not familiar with the circuit. So they came over. And so I stopped what I was doing to share, little things to help them with the circuit. And I remember thinking like, okay, I could think about my body and getting what I need, or I could stop and connect with them and provide a little bit for them. And at the same time, another lady came over with a bald head. Maybe she was going through chemo, I don't know, but out of the clear blue, she's like, show me this machine. So once again, I had the thought, okay, it's an interruption of what I need to do for me. But I said, this lady wants a connection. So I connected, I showed her the machine. She was like, thank you. I felt like God walked over to me and gave me the opportunity to give a blessing and mitzvah to stop and not think about my body, but to think about the connection. And, I still got my little workout in, But it's kind of like, as you were saying that, it's like, is the connection there, between what's in front of you, or are you going to think about the physical, like your own body, your own needs? So at any rate, I was kind of smiling because to me, it was very beautiful to have the thought, to have the awareness and say, okay, I'll be okay. Connect with these people, help, do a mitzvah. And it was just beautiful because I felt it in my heart and soul.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So the going back to Isaac's treasure, right? So he was looking for his treasure, and we are all Isaacs looking for our treasure. And we spoke about 2 ways to find the treasure that's hidden in our heart. And one of them is by getting rid of the dirt, and the other one is by really recognizing the treasure and really focusing on the treasure and thinking about the beauty of the treasure. Because what's going to happen to all the sushi that you ate? What's going to happen to all the pizza that you ate when you die? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. What difference is it going to make to anybody? Nothing. But what's going to be with the impact that you made? With the change that you made to people's lives, those around you? That's going to mean everything. That's going to mean everything. So hopefully with this awareness, we're going to make better, healthier choices, more spiritual choices. Not because we got rid of the dirt, not because we cleared our minds, but because we focused so strongly and so intently on the beauty of the soul and the understanding that everything in this world that is not soul related, everything that is just the veneer, is really death and destruction. And we value the treasure so deeply. So what we've spoken about is 2 ways, 2 paths. Hitbo dedut, which is emptying your mind of everything and allowing yourself to connect with your soul. Or hitbo nenut, which is focusing so intently on a soul idea that it takes over, consumes you, and changes the way that you think. So we've learned how we can access our own spirituality by either one of these 2 paths, and hopefully live heightened, enriched, and more aware lives. So what is your homework? Your homework is to review the texts and see how it makes you feel. You can choose either path that you want. I personally would suggest the second path. And you can choose this idea of the body and the soul, of everything in creation. You can choose the idea that we spoke about of God and how God relates to us. God is the creator of everything, yet craves a connection with us individually, or any other concept of love or fear of God. And think about it. Spend time thinking about it and see if it changes your perspective even for a few minutes. Not bad, 9:03. Before we get into this week's meditation, guided meditation from Rabbi Leibel Wolf, just a quick teaser for next week is called Mastermind. Is God a static or dynamic force in our universe? Is he an aloof creator, or is he a involved micromanager? So next week, we're going to develop an astonishingly powerful meditation that will not only shift the way we perceive reality, but will also help us find purpose in the so often chaos of life. Do we have any questions before we move into the meditation? Here we are. Opening. And we will share screen. If this crashes my computer, I'll come back on.
We have 2 voices speaking to us from within. One voice is our lower order self, Nefesh Bahamis. The Nefesh Bahamis urges us to live a life of pleasure, of ease, getting what we want whenever we want it. The other voice is the voice of the Nefesh Elokis. That's our godly self. That's the self that seeks connectedness with people in love, connectedness with the world and its elements, feeling fulfilled, connectedness with Hashem. Gently close your eyes and just become aware of your inner self, your inner quiet, that place you can escape to, because it's always a place where you have your own sense of self. Allow that special place to be your refuge, that place of inner sanctity, totally protected, always safe. As you step out of that space, become aware of your two inner voices. Listen to the voice of the Nefesh Bahamis. Note what it tells you. It says, you're insecure in this world. You need to shore yourself up. You need more and more and more. Otherwise, you're unsafe. Build walls around you. Wealth. Create superficial pleasures, because life is short. The Nefesh Bahamis is the voice of the ego. Now listen to the truer voice of the Nefesh Elokis, the voice that tells you that everything possesses truth and meaning, that your happiness and joy comes from connecting truly to people, to the world around you, by connecting to the inner selves, the soulful center. The voice that tells you pleasure doesn't come from material acquisition. It comes from the smile of appreciation for having helped someone, for the small gift that you give your grandchild, for the blue sky that you wake up to. In life, choose which voice you are going to listen to. It may be that you don't need to have a battle within, a fight between them. You might even be able to transform the Nefesh Bahamis into an ally, giving its energy the capacity to do the right things. But always allow yourself to recognize that your true voice is the voice of the Nefesh Elokis. In so doing, your life will be replete with happiness and fulfillment.
Okay. Wow. So, what we've discussed today is that to access spirituality, we don't need to travel anywhere other than our own soul. And we discussed two methods of getting to our soul. Method number one is remove all distractions and allow yourself to feel your soul and your connection to God. Method number two is focus on a soul idea until it becomes so real to you that it changes the way you think and pulls through, shines through the surface. All the spirituality that you will ever need, you can find from within. Now, sometimes we need to learn about it. That's why we're here tonight, for example. But you have the ability to experience spirituality within. Thank you all for coming. And before we leave, if you could all share something that you're taking away from tonight. Joan, would you like to go first? You're on mute. Everyone can unmute and then.
The idea that everything has body and soul. And if we connect to the soul of everything, then it continues, it lives forever. If we connect to the body of anything, that decomposes and dies. So always to connect to the soul part of everything.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's a profound idea. Let's keep thinking about it throughout the week. Auntie Nina.
Well, at the source of the emotions that come from your intelligence or your mind. And so I guess that you have to watch what goes into your mind to guide your emotions. Or maybe I've just made that up. I don't know.
That's very true.
Oh, can I just say something that
Please.
I got on page 55? I was delighted to see at the bottom there something I've been looking for. I saw this little video about a year or more ago, and I've been trying to find that little morsel of the lamp and the mother lamp and the baby lamp. If anybody wants to see something really, look up on page 55 at the bottom there. Okay.
It's great. It's really great. Yes.
Yeah.
The bottom of page 55. It's a very cute conversation between a mother lamp and a baby light. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Rhonda.
Firstly, I love all the stories that you share. They bring great visuals. When you shared how was it Isaac or whatever his name is went and looked for the treasure and it was really within, and just that it's not that difficult. Now, this does not have to be some like unattainable worldly thing. I mean, there's two very clear-cut ways to connect with our spirituality and two very clear-cut ways to experience Hashem and the soul. And it's just beautiful. Like, as the person who gave the meditation that said, you could look up at the blue sky and you could feel that essence, that divine, or you could help another person. You see that smile of appreciation. Like, it's really not that difficult, So I don't know why anybody would want to live their life any other way than to live their life connecting with their soul and feeling, because, God's given us this beautiful, amazing life. And we could feel his experience, Hashem. So it's just like so great to hear the words, hear you sharing and your teaching, because it just deepens the paths and the ways to do it. And it does not have to be challenging. It's like right there in front of us. So, I really appreciate the teaching. It deepens what I do when I teach meditation or yoga. I say a lot of this, but it's so nice to connect to the Jewishness of it and the source and the stories, it just makes it so much more deeper for me. And I just greatly appreciate this blessing. And I thank you and each and every person, here, for making this possible.
You're welcome. And I'm glad that the way it came out felt very attainable and very close. There are some stories that I didn't want to share, but I think I can share them now. Two incredible stories of where this can lead to with enough practice. There was a chassid, and he had to go and get new glasses. This is back in the old country where they didn't have the machines to test your eyesight. They had a few pairs of glasses and you put them on, and if you could read, then you bought them. So this one chassid goes into the glasses store and he puts on a pair of glasses. He gets up in the morning and he goes after prayers. He goes to the glasses store and he puts on his glasses, and he had a little paper with some teaching from the Mittler Rebbe, the second Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he was using as his his test to see if he can read. Anyways, he's standing there and he gets so engrossed in this idea that he was just standing there oblivious to all the customers coming in and coming out. And he was standing there all the way till the end of the day, when the store owner came over to him, tapped him on the shoulder, and said, I apologize, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I need to lock up and go home. And the man forgot why he had even come there. He took off the glasses and walked out. He didn't, he just put a whole day he was there. And another story, more recently, a friend of mine, his father-in-law is a kosher butcher, a sheikhet, a kosher slaughterer in South Africa. And he says there was once a certain rabbi who was coming to take a tour of the plant to see, how things are done there, to see, So he was staying over at this rabbi's house, and he saw over there a book that he had never seen before, an explanation on a certain topic that he loved. So he took the book with him for the car ride. And he's reading it anyways. The sheikhet comes out of his car, he shechts the whole thing. He comes back in the car, and he gets back in the car and he's about to start driving back. And this rabbi closes the book and says, okay, so when does the shechting start? He had been in the car the whole time, completely did not even realize that the car had stopped and that hours had passed.
Wow.
So yes, it is very attainable. But, and I didn't want to scare you with these stories, but the truth is that with enough practice, you can get there to a point where you can focus on an idea and be completely oblivious to anything around you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Lev Moshe.
Yes.
What's something that you found interesting from tonight's lesson?
What I found interesting was that we learned the pathways to connect to God. And it was like a roadmap, a path directly on how I, as an individual, can connect with my creator.
Beautiful. Beautiful, and thank you. And last but not least, as we say in Hebrew, Acharon, Acharon Chaviv, the last is the most beloved. Annette, would you like to share something that you enjoyed from tonight's session? If you'd like to unmute yourself.
If Annette doesn't talk, I know she works so hard giving and giving and giving to so many people that it may be because she fell asleep. She told me sometimes she's so tired that she falls asleep.
Okay.
So that's probably why she's not talking, because she's exhausted herself in giving in a spirit.
Look at that, connecting to the soul.
Yeah.
She didn't need to hear it. She already lives it.
Yes, she does.
Okay, thank you all, and looking forward to see you next week. I will try to send the direct Zoom link next week instead of the forward link, and hopefully that will make it easier for everyone to sign on in the beginning. And I'm looking forward to discuss with you. What did we call it? Mastermind. Mastermind. Is God a static or dynamic? Yeah, static or dynamic force in our universe. Have a very good week, a very happy week. Looking forward to see you. Same time, same channel.
תודה רבה, Rabbi, and
Thank
all.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rabbi. Have a
Thank
good
you.
week, everyone.
Thank you. Good evening.
Joan.